All right, Tampa's new construction is about to boom again. And now I'm not talking like hockey stick. It's not gonna explode. We're not talking about overbuilding, but the options are endless right now. And if you're considering buying a new construction home, this video is just for you. We're gonna talk about the things you need to keep in mind when you're going that route. Here we go. So low interest rates and brand new overall is why a lot of people choose new construction, but there's a lot of other things to consider. So let's get into the 10 things you need to consider if you're gonna buy new construction. Number one thing is your CDD. Now, CDD is Community Development District. This is a tax added onto your property tax. CDD is a lot of different things added into one. Sometimes it's just the infrastructure. It's just the roads. It's just the new sewer lines, the new internet, all those kind of things. CDDs have two different things. CDDs have operations and management, operations and maintenance, O&M is what they call it. And then they have debt service. So the debt gets paid off eventually. So say your CDD fee is $3,000 a year, probably about $1,200 of that is debt service. At the end of that debt, 30 years likely, your CDD will go down a little bit, but it won't actually go away. But when you look at new construction, it's very hard to avoid CDDs because a lot of these neighborhoods are built on undeveloped areas. And it costs a lot of money to develop all that land, to plan out all the water retention systems, to make sure the right amount of preserve is left, to build the parks and the roads and the sidewalks and the water in and out and the power in, all those kind of things take a lot of investment. And that's what you're paying back, is that investment. So some estimates for the CDD in a lot of these bigger neighborhoods, you're looking at around $2,000 to $3,000 a year. I have seen them a little closer to $4,000, and I've also seen them a little under $2,000. But for the most part, they're right in that range. Your CDD is included in your property taxes once you actually move in and start paying for your property taxes. And that typically is, paid for by your mortgage company. You pay a little bit in each month, and then they pay the bill. Okay, the second thing is your HOA, your homeowners association. A lot of people call us, because I live in a non-HOA neighborhood, asking for neighborhoods without HOAs. Very doable around here. But also HOAs are very common. Now, they're not always this big, like these big new construction neighborhoods, but they're very common nonetheless. Your HOA is typically the maintenance of your sidewalks, the maintenance of your, common areas like playgrounds, mailboxes, some kind of clubhouse, maybe, a pool. There's like a really nice park and a pool and a clubhouse with a gym in it. This is River Landing by Taylor Morrison. But there are a lot of variations of that. Some of those, like Angeline, will have a big lagoon. I was talking to them just the other day, and the HOA will go up a little bit once the lagoon finishes. It will go up by $45 a month. But there are all different levels of HOAs, and they're also avoidable, but not with new construction. They're really not avoidable with new construction because there are just ongoing fees related to these neighborhoods. When you go the non-HOA route, it can be a little more complicated. There's a sign at the front of my neighborhood, and occasionally someone will raise some money to kind of spruce up the sign and plant some new plants out there, and neighbors will actually go do it, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but it just means things don't have that kind of manicured look that you might be looking for. Okay, the third thing I want to bring up is this kind of balance between your CDD and your HOA. So I've seen it go both ways. Sometimes the HOA is really high and the CDD is really high. Sometimes the HOA is really high and the CDD is low. And then I went to another neighborhood, Deerbrook, just the other day. The HOA was really low, like $27 a month, but the CDD was like $3,000 for the year. Their thinking in that kind of scenario was that the CDD offsets a lot of the HOA expenses. The times you see where the CDD is higher and the HOA is lower, you see this balance, or sometimes it's the opposite. Like Pioneer Homes, they rarely have a CDD, but they will have an HOA because they do smaller neighborhoods. They just don't have as much investment. They bake all of that cost into the price of the homes. But this Deerbrook neighborhood is just D.R. Horton. It's like 500 homes. They're just putting it into the CDD instead of into the HOA. It's still additional monthly cost. And so that's where I want you to think about these things. And that's how we help you kind of think of it as well. It's just additional monthly costs. That's it. Oh, and real quick, don't forget to download our new construction guide. It's down in the description. Okay, number 4 is master planned or not. When I say master planned, I'm at a point where I don't quite know how to explain what that is. a lot of what we call the master plan communities are one big developer that buys the whole area and that controls kind of where every builder goes and do master amenities. Some of them now even have like a 55+ part of the neighborhood that has its own amenities. These master plan communities have a bunch of different builders building townhouses and single family homes and 55+ single family homes and attached 55+ homes and bigger homes as well. A lot of different options in these. These are typically big neighborhoods. I'm talking, 2,000+ homes very typically. In the Tampa area, the main developers that build these master plan communities is Metro Places and Newland Communities. So Newland in the Tampa area is really best known for like Fishhawk. They built the whole Fishhawk Ranch neighborhood, and then Fishhawk Trails was added later. Newland also built Bexley. Metro Places built Epperson, Murata, Angeline. They're building Sea Air down in Parrish now. There's a lot of those. So one of the biggest advantages to the master plan communities is really the feel. It feels like a big community. It's a big neighborhood. It's thousands of homes. It's trails throughout. It's parks. Sometimes it's a school like Starkey Ranch. Has a K-8 school and a library right there and fields, and it creates a little bit more of a community around the whole neighborhood. And our clients that choose those neighborhoods, it's typically for that reason. They want that bigger community feel. So another option compared to master plan communities is like that Deerbrook neighborhood that I mentioned. There are neighborhoods like that where it's a single builder. So D.R. Horton does those, Lennar does those, and then a lot of local builders do that as well. There's just pros and cons. Those single builder ones just aren't typically as big. Sometimes they are. Actually, there's one being built pretty close to me called Newport Corners. That's all Lennar, and they're building like 3,500 homes to 4,000 homes, something like that. It's not all super public yet, but it is sometimes big, and then those are gonna have higher costs. But typically the single builder option is a little smaller, a little less amenities. Maybe there's not a community pool. Victoria Lakes by Taylor Morrison is a great example of that in West Chase. There is, 100 homes or something, but no community pool, no trails. It's just kind of different. It's a little pocket. Builders do those one-off neighborhoods very often. It keeps their, CDD costs down. It lets them create options on a smaller piece of land. So there are options that are broad like a master plan and then a little more narrow like a single builder neighborhood. Okay, number 6, I want to talk about the upgrades that are worth it. Now, a lot of this is exactly what you want, what your goals are, and how we can help you achieve those. But I'm in a house right now that our clients kind of went all out on the upgrades in. Added this extra island, so 2 islands here, added another bathroom down here, added a theater room upstairs, added the bigger pantry. It's got a primary downstairs, a primary upstairs. This is a big house. It's like 4,900 square feet. Whenever you're weighing out which upgrades are worth it or not, first of all, it's based on what kind of house you want to move into. Now, floors are a lot more expensive to have the builder do them, but you might just want to move into the floors you want instead of having the basic tile that they come with or some basic laminates they come with and having to change it later. That is a big factor. But even bigger than that is to think about the pieces that are structural. A house, for the most part, can be expanded and walls can be moved. It's a pretty durable thing where you can move things around. But some of those things are just harder than others. Like this second island, running power to this through the slab of concrete is a big project if you were to do it later. Adding that half bath right there, or adding the 3rd car garage, or different things like that are big factors later down the road that you might just not want to deal with when it comes to appliances or tile on the wall, like the backsplash. Like those things are not as big of a deal to upgrade later. So yeah, don't forget to call, text, or email. We'd love to hop on a Zoom call with you and just help you process those things. And when we do introduce you to builders, help you have that conversation to identify what is the most important to you. Because that's the most important factor, is what is most important to you. And let me make another point really quick out of that upgrade conversation, because some upgrades are overpriced but convenient. And then what you're paying for is the convenience. I think you guys get that. But even how electrical is run, how plumbing is set up, how it's prepped for the outdoor kitchen maybe, how it's prepped to add on a pool really easily, or even just how the floors are done from the time you move in. All those things are maybe more expensive if the builder does them, but a lot more convenient if the builder does them. It's really up to you to decide. One of the things I like to cover in the webinar, and don't forget to sign up for the webinar, but one of the things I always cover in the webinar is your big anchor. Everyone's big anchor is different. the beach, it's the neighborhood kind of style, it's the schools, it's the access to major highways, it's access to the airport, it's access to a downtown, it's access to some very specific amenities. Maybe it's Trader Joe's has to be nearby, or a specific doctor has to be nearby. Everybody has some kind of big anchor. So when you think about your big anchor, there's typically 2 with new construction. Let's say 3. It's the neighborhood, it's the house, and it's the price. So the style of neighborhood, the type of house, can you actually get the amount of space you want, and then does that fit within your budget? So those are typical big anchors within new construction. Does it feel right to you? Can you get the amount of space you need for you and maybe for your family? And does it break the bank or not? Okay, number 9 on the list with new construction, things to consider, you gotta think about your commute. A lot of these new construction communities are a little further out. A lot of these towns have been referred to as bedroom communities. I'm in Wesley Chapel right now. Northern suburbs, southeast suburbs of Tampa, like they all have a lot of new construction, but they are kind of on this outer ring of the Tampa area. That means if you got to commute down to, Fisher Investments down by the airport, or Citibank over by, Brandon, all those are, that's funny, I just talked about 2 different banks. This recent clients work at those places, but commute from these areas is just going to be a bit further and more convenient from some new construction areas than others. For example, if you can get on the Veterans Expressway and come south into Tampa, it's a lot smoother. Or if you can get on 275 really quickly, as opposed to having to go down, Dale Mabry or Bruce B. Downs, those main inroads are a lot faster than the smaller town or state highways. All right, number 10 on the list is kind of how manicured do you want it to feel. We actually had a Zoom call with a new client last night, and he was saying he's willing to go quite a bit further out if it feels a bit more manicured, because his wife and their first kid and about to have their second kid, they would feel more comfortable at home if it has more of this kind of manicured feel, has nice trails and parks and all this stuff right in the neighborhood. Completely understandable. So then we start to compromise on one thing to go after the more important thing. With new construction, a lot of it feels pretty manicured, but some is more than others, with the big fountains as you come in and the really nice amenities. But more than that, for me with a wife and 3 little kids, the trails is what matters to me, the trails and parks. And some of these neighborhoods just have even more of that. Actually, River Landing has a really cool park that I know my 6-year-old would love climbing in. And then they have really cool trails across the wetlands that they were able to preserve, really cool spots. So if you've got to the end of the video, you're probably wondering, okay, what do I do next? First of all, you reach out, call us, text, or email. Coming to the webinar would be great if you have a couple questions, but we'd love to just hop on a call and answer any questions you have too. But the process is pretty straightforward. We would identify a couple areas that make really good sense for you. We'd identify a couple builders that make great sense for you. And then we'd go and make those introductions to the builders and answer questions with the builder rep. The thing is, these builder reps, they're trying to sell their product, and we know there's other options, there's other options, so we kind of always have that in the back of our mind. But then running the numbers and making sure that the scenario works right for you with the monthly expenses related to that community specifically. Then after you go under contract on the new house, you make some kind of deposit. Typically this is 5 to 10% of the total. In this house specifically, which is about to close, they were able to make it in installments because the house is going to take 13 months to build, and it was coming out of an investment account. So the timing of it avoided some tax penalties by doing it that way. The builders are open to different scenarios in this specific deposit situation. Then this house, we just did the final inspection, but before that we did a pre-drywall inspection when it was just exposed studs, making sure the electrical and all the plumbing is done right. And build times vary. This one, our clients upgraded a lot, built from the dirt, chose the beautiful lot, and it took 13 months to build. A lot of these builders, they build inventory homes, especially like D.R. Horton. You can't even choose the color of your cabinets. They're just building house after house, and they are building a product that most people are happy with. There's a lot of different options, even in these master plan communities, of both. You can choose one that is already maybe started and choose a few options. You can choose one that you choose nothing on. You can choose one that you pick your lot and you choose every specific detail that you want. Now there are typically specifics, like you can't build this house on a smaller lot because this is a really big house. So they do only give you specific lot options once you decide on the actual house you want to build. So I hope this is helpful information about new construction, just things to consider, things about the process that you might want to think about If you are interested in a house like this or any other of these developments, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, text, or email anytime.